Ladies and gentlemen, Lord Kozan here, and we've got Bliss Plus Plus Timer open, our project management software at Try a Million. And today, we've opened up the Slack account, which is a place where people can communicate. You know, teams can communicate in real time. It really is a valuable place to use, but there are others such as Telegram and own versions, but this Slack works and it allows what we need in a fast, rapid time frame. Okay, so I've opened up Bliss Plus Plus Timer, and we've set up the Slack. Now, there was a need to add the focus. What's our focus? Well, I kind of knew what our focus was, but I didn't really, have a definition of a clear-cut goal. So what do? In this case, we know it's Slack, so I put Slack there. And then after that, I know what's the issue. The issue is we got categories that we have to look at. And then I started to consider what's the reason why we are there. And the reason why we are there is to communicate. And so why are we using Slack? And we're using Slack purely for being an efficient process. We don't want to write letters to each other and then post them off. And then it takes, weeks to figure out what's going on. We don't want to put a message on a blog and then wait for people to add like that. It's a bit rigid. We want to be able to step back and have pretty much a meeting. And what Slack provides is the ability to have a better meeting, because we can access the people we need. Considering that Try a Million is a cloud-based organization, and now we're trying to mold it with a physical staff, dealing with construction and farming and things like that. We need to be able to connect these remote cloud-based people and the physical people who's on the ground. So this helps. Okay, so we got Slack, we got the categories that we want to look at. We know that we're trying to communicate here, and we ultimately want to find efficiency. So I press focus, type that in, and then press go. Remember, the investors get a red carpet edition of Bliss Plus Plus Timer, and this software will be re-released to the public at some point, but we want to make use of our software before we do that. Okay, so we're looking at categories. We want efficiency. So what's the categories we're gonna have? We got investors. We need to speak with the investors. We want to have a place to be able to gather our investors, our core investors, who's gonna provide us the loans and help us to move forward. So we know we want to have a place specifically for investors. We want a channel for investors. Next, we got Try a Million land management itself. We want to be able to speak about the actual company. Sometimes things don't fit into one place. For example, our focus is getting the Glenlockie estate and developing it, but we don't want to stop there, and there's a good reason for this. Bliss Plus Plus Timer, in our ability to set processes and complete them, and then be able to save state and save template, allows us to be able to multiply that effort. Now, this is something I learned a long time ago. It's easier to work on small things or big things. There was a time when I was building several websites all in one day, and this was happening every day, and so many things happening. And what we found is, or what I found at the time, is that it's easy to do multiple things, especially once you've got that momentum and we've checked these things off. Once we know the processes and we've gone through them, we can easily replicate it. as you will see. Okay, so we need something for the actual company, the header company that's dealing with these different things. And we know that Glenlockie is a focus. This estate in that's up for sale in Scotland, and we want to buy it. We want to. This is the main focus of why we started Tri Million Land Management, to focus on there. But we're not stopping on Glenlockie, or if we can't get Glenlockie, on other estates that proves that it's got some kind of hidden values which isn't seen. Okay, so Glenlockie is an important channel we need to have, or category, so that people, staff, or whatever, it can all go into there. Next is Tri Million Land Management Canada. We have seen a nice place, an estate, a massive land measuring 900,000 acres in Canada, and that's an interesting prospect that we want to also develop a kind of sideline development from after Glenlockie. As we progress, we move those progresses into other places as well. So Canada, that's got its own category, because whatever happens, we're going to need specific people going and seeing the information in that category. And then we got Tri Million Land Management Africa, which is an interesting prospect, this project, because of the, I don't want to say third world nature of many places in Africa, but there is a cost difference. In the United Kingdom, things are generally more expensive than you find in other places. So Africa is an interesting place. I've got a long-term staff member, Mary, who's been with us for some time. Not always working, but she's been around. And, someone I can trust. And she's going back to Kenya in December. And it would be interesting to get a small piece of land, and this was originally her intentions, to open up a store. So it kind of fits in an interesting way, where we could get farmland, and she can sell eggs and chickens and things like that nature in the store. There are, however, some issues with Tri Million Land Management Africa, and that is that in Kenya there's certain rules to getting land. Like, you can't, foreigners, or if there's any kind of foreign investment, you can't just go and buy land. There's certain rules and regulations on what can be done. So we've got Pastor Raffian, who has quite a strong following on Facebook. He's got over 10,000 people following him, and he goes around in Kenya, and he has he does his evangelism, and he knows a lot of people. So as a human resource person, Pastor Raffian is a good blend in the project, and he has he does stuff for government in relation to his work. So he has the contacts to help us in Tri Million Land Management Africa, and we don't see this as a major cost. I don't want to go too much into detail with that, but these are the three main focuses. Obviously Glenlockie, our biggest focus, because that's pretty much what the business is basing itself around, and the focus is, but these do offer interesting opportunities to branch out and maximize what we're doing, because obviously as long as we've got the people there, if we've got the systems in place and we know what needs to be done, then they can be done simultaneously, and they'll add value to the core business of Tri Million Land Management. Okay, so this is how we've got this. Originally, when I went through this list, I got we need to speak to staff and ground staff, people who's actually working on the land, and cloud-based staff, which is Tri-Million's speciality of running a cloud-based organization. But it didn't get a place in the list. I had to pull it out and change it with Tri-Million Land Management in this spot, because it's good to have that, but it doesn't apply when it comes, we suddenly have a fragmentation. So it was easier to pull that out and then keep this like this. For the moment, I think this works. We don't have to add 10 categories. If we wanted 20, then obviously we'd have to open up more of this, or add it into here and kind of refine it so that it wouldn't get to 20, so that it's more simplified to work with, because obviously Bliss Plus Plus Timer is all about speed and efficiency and getting things done, not complicating the matter. Before I try to write down my to-dos one day, and I had like 120 and nothing got done. Only 2-3 things got done. I was overwhelmed, and so this software helps us to just focus and simplify. So that's what we got: 2, 4, 5 different sections that we need right now, and it pretty much helps us to connect in the areas that needs to be connected. I hope you've enjoyed this little conversation, and I hope you're gonna help us in some ways. I hope you get involved, even if you're not involved in the funding stage, or working on the project. If you're in crypto, we look forward to welcoming you on Tri-Million Land Management camping grounds and hotels and stay in the future. So stay tuned and enjoy the ride with us.